Now we're going to make the wheel setup that he wants, and that's going to go through this little sleeve here, and we need to have segments of holes drilled in the square shaft of the wheel setup. So I've calculated out, and we're putting a hole every 1.5 inches. So we're set up there, starting at 3 inches, which is where we're at right there. And let's put it on a faster speed. Find my brush. Alright, get a new brush. A little bit of oil. And our first hole. Then we're going to index it over 1.5 inches. 4, 8, 9, 7, 8, 9, 5. A little bit more oil. And continuing that process on down the line. We did this other one here so you can kind of see where we're going with it. First the pilot hole, then come back with a 5/8, and then chamfer that top edge so nobody cuts themselves. Okay, the next part of this project is making this little yoke that goes around the wheel, and then of course that will attach to the piece of square tubing. So we're going to cut that at 7.5 and 3.25 wide, and the only way I found to really get an accurate cut on such a thick piece of metal is to trim out some of the metal in order to be able to kind of relieve it a little bit so it can bend very smoothly and accurately. So what we're going to do, we've twisted the head of the J-head, and we're going to drop this down, crank up the mill, and cut a groove across that part, flip it around, or maybe just drag it down and cut the second groove. So for the moment, we give ourselves a little room, crank up the converter, and we're just going to bring it up till it hits. There we go. Now let's see what that line looks like. So we wanted 7.25. We wanted a 3.5. Alright, so 7.25 is going to take us just a little bit this direction. Let's see what that looks like. And that's a little bit too far. Okay, coming back, and I think that's going to do it. Just a little bit further. There we go, 7.25. Alright, so we're going to raise our table just a little bit, and we're going to walk this baby in. Let's go ahead and put a little bit of make sure we're on 90 here. So we'll drag the table up. Oh, let's go 40 thousandths. See what that does. That looks pretty good. So what we're going to do is get the perfect 45-degree V in now. And once we get down to, I would say about a 1/4 inch, we'll bend it and then weld it back together. Now we could come in and just heat that up and bend it over, but I found that you never get an accurate bend. The metal always wants to go in weird directions, especially with heating it with the torch, because you're never sure what part of the metal is hotter than the other part of the metal. So it'll always, when it bends over, it'll tweak a little bit one way or the other. Not real accurate. This is going to give us a nice accurate bend once we get down there. Spend a little more time doing it, and a lot less acetylene and oxygen, of course. But certainly give us a nice clean bend. All right, we'll come back in a minute. Okay, we're down to our last little cut here. We're going to finish that up. Pull out some of the extra metal. Now, we've got it down to, I don't know, about a 1/4 inch. We could throw that in the vise, bend that over very easily. And actually, you know what? I think I'm going to just take it a little bit further, because that's a pretty wide piece of steel. And we're going to take it down another 40. Let's see what happens with that. Yeah, that gives us a little bit more, and makes it just a little bit weaker. Plus, we've got this perfect 90-degree V in there, so when this thing bends over, it'll bend over just exactly at 90 degrees. All right, let's come back. And I think what we're going to do is go ahead and turn this around rather than get close to that vise. I'm going to have to file the edges down. Or else it won't go in the vise right. Now we're looking for 7 1/4. Is that correct? That is correct. And that looks just about right. So all we got to do is find our spot there. I don't think it's going to be enough. Come back over a little bit. Come back the other way just a little bit. I might think it's going to do it. Eight 1/4. Alright, so we're going to run that down to 40 thousandths at a time. And we'll come back when we get this part done. So we're working on the wheel part here, and what I need to do, and I'll show you in a minute how that's going to lay out. What I need to do is I need to be able to bend this tab at about 20 degrees or so. So I'm not real worried about how many degrees this groove is. I'm just kind of relieving the tension on that junction there, so that I can give it a little heat and just bend it. So I've done this one side, and I'm going to do the other side. Let's turn our wheel off, because we're in there pretty close. So rather than shift the head and then have to retram it later, I'm just going straight and running this bar in just at a slight angle. I'm just going to take it in one cut. I mean, it's going down probably 250 thousandths or so, but you know, if I just take it slow and easy, it'll be fine. So once I get done with this cut, I'll come back and we'll talk about this some more. Remember the holes in the piece of square tubing with the pin, so that this could slide up and down. It all came out really good. And when Tim came out here the other day and looked at this, he realized that this wasn't the approach that he wanted to take. So we're going to throw this away, and we're going to put the wheels inside of one of these clips, which is the more standard way of approaching anything like this, and that'll work. So but what we have to do is we have to make a yoke for the wheel. And so we're going to go, we've already bent and cut this, and we're going to take one side of this and come in and have it sit just about like that. But we need something for this side, because this is going to carry a fair amount of weight. I mean, it's going to carry this whole bar and whatever tools he puts on the bar, and the back side. So we're probably looking 500-600 pounds here. So it can't just be on one side. It needs to have a little support over here. So that's where this part here comes in. And you'll see in a minute, we're going to go ahead and just bend that at a few degrees and then drop it down. Let's see if we can get that in place here. And then drop it, and it's going to want to come in and hit square on that, and then bend around. It's got to be, you know, a little bit of a odd way of approaching it, but he said I needed more room in between so that the dirt didn't get into the wheel and stuff. So we're going to approach it from that direction. I'm going to turn you around to the vise here, and I'm hoping that we can put this bar in the vise. It's relieved enough that I'll be able to just bend it. Let's give it a try. Yep, look at that. And we don't need that much angle on it. I'd say that's probably more than enough. Let's kind of swing back around to the wheel here and see what that looks like. Okay, a little bit more. We'll just keep bending it down until we come up with something that actually works. Now it looks to me like that's going to be just about right. That should do the trick. Okay, we could just do a little bit more angle. Bend the other side. And that should do it. So now all we have to do is figure out how long it wants to be, since this is going to be here and that's going to be there. So we can just kind of calculate that it's going to be about the same length as this. So somewhere right in here. Can you see that? Somewhat. Let's go over here. So I've measured, not measured at all actually, just kind of estimated. But you know, maybe a measurement wouldn't be a bad idea. Let's go ahead and get a square and do that. Alright, there's a more accurate measurement. Now we'll take this in the bandsaw, cut that off, cut the other side off, and then weld this together and weld these little joints here that are kind of much weaker now. Then once everything gets all welded up, I'll come back in and drill or mill a drill with, on the milling table, a shaft receiver, and then we'll figure out a shaft for that, and then we'll come in later and weld this to a toolbar, which is about the same size as this material here. Okay.